Okay, good. So we'll start our session today on Kairos, which is the god of opportunity, with a brief 20 breaths process just to get us settled. And then later on in the session, we'll do a slightly longer visualization to get into the flow with that energy. So for the 20 breaths, it's 4 short breaths, 1 long breath, and we'll do 4 sets of those so that we can kind of use the breath work to get into an inner space. And then afterwards, we'll just keep our eyes closed and stay connected. So sit up straight, uncross arms and legs, close your eyes, and let's start with a long deep breath through the nose or the mouth, and now 4 short breaths. Long. And then 5 more. So now just keep your eyes closed. Feel your body. Just feel that you settle into your body, that you settle into this moment. So just allowing yourself, first of all, to feel comfortable and safe in your body as you settle down, comfortable and safe as you just feel settled in your environment, that you feel settled in the room, in the space. And now just take a long deep breath. And on the exhale, just let go of any physical tensions or anything that you're holding onto on a physical level. And now just become aware of your emotions, the emotions of the last 24 hours. Just feel the emotions of the last week, the prominent ones, the emotions that perhaps have been causing a bit of upset in your life, or otherwise the emotions that cause you joy, that bring you joy. So just feeling that you settle more into yourself now by taking a long deep breath. And then on the exhale, again, just letting go of those emotions so that you can make space for more of your soul, more of your truth, letting the emotions, the sensations, the thoughts of your ego dissolve, disappear, as you connect to your more eternal self. And with your eyes closed, connecting inwardly, perhaps you feel your soul just as a deep knowing, or as a deep connection to an inner you. And perhaps at different stages of your life you've been aware of this true you, maybe childhood or adolescent experiences or peak experiences in which you felt most connected to the divine, in which you felt most connected to the mystery. Just take a long deep breath now. Connect to that inner self, that inner mystery, so that you can kind of transcend this moment, go beyond current circumstances, and just connect to a eternal you. A you that is broader, more connected, more wise, more loving, more joyful. And in so doing, you make space to listen to hear more of your soul purpose. You make space to allow the magic, the miracles, the mystery into your life. So just take another long, deep breath now. And on the exhale, just really feel deeply at peace, deeply connected, so that you can allow all the joy, all the love, all the wisdom, all the light. Good, and now you can gently start to return by opening your eyes, being back in the room. Good. Good to see everyone. Good to be here, everyone. We'll start off our session with drawing a card for the month, or maybe a card that can be of reference for you in your life at this time. And the card we have here, obviously as a group, but also with individual significance, is Hephaestus, which is the card of kind of fashioning, of using your hands, or of doing something in the world to ground your spirituality. And usually that relates to some sort of, let's say, craft or art or manual skill or gardening, kind of making something, kind of, connecting to creative force, the creative force. We as humans are inherently creative. That is kind of our purpose in the world in many ways. It's to either procreate, or it's to create in some way, to take our inspiration from the divine, to, take our ideas and to somehow translate them into the world. So that could be through artwork, it could be through an invention or an inspiration that comes to us that we then give some form of external expression. So that Hephaestus card encourages you to somehow turn your spirituality into something concrete. And again, the one possibility is through sort of art or craft or doing something physical, or otherwise it's through creating a practical ritual, creating an external expression of your spirituality. So that is usually through creating some sort of ritual, making some sort of offering, maybe going to a special place in order to make space for spiritual connection. So that could be a temple, a church, that could be a place in nature, but it's really about actually taking the time to make something special, to set up circumstances for a peak experience. And that kind of ties in a lot with the theme for today. And it's, one of those eternal questions that we as humans contemplate. What is time? Obviously time in its chronological sense is very limiting. Time in a chronological sense is something that runs out, And the ancient Greek term for that is Kronos, the god Kronos, who is also known to the Romans as Saturn. And of course, the planet Saturn is named after Kronos, or Saturn. And Saturn as a planet has those rings that create a limitation. So, Kronos, time within this physical reality, creates limitation. It creates a structure, it creates like a weave, it creates like a network into which our lives are woven. So Kronos, chronological time, is something that happens according to kind of a rhythm and a beat. It's something that we can't change. It's something that is very much hardwired into our physical reality. Now, the principle of Kairos, which is the theme of today's talk, is kind of the opposite of that. That is the principle of opportunity, or right time, right place, circumstances. It's not quite the same as destiny, but it's similar, it's related more to destiny. When something destined is supposed to happen, it happens regardless of time and space. It happens regardless of the limits imposed either by time, the inexorable flow of time, or otherwise it goes beyond the limitations of space, of where we are in our lives, of what external factors are ruling our lives. So here we can work with one of the principles that the ancients actually had of the term Kairos, which means it's not chronological time. The word Kairos means the right time, or the opportune time. So obviously the chronological time is something that is impersonal. It just kind of happens according to an impersonal, let's say, beat. Whereas Kairos style time is personal. It is something that helps you in your evolution, helps you move forward in your life in some way according to your destiny. So, there's many different ways in which we can understand this principle. The metaphor that or the image that I would like to use to start off with is that, let's say, chronological time, or even the weave in which we find ourselves in this physical reality. Of course, in this physical reality, we are part of like a weave, part of a network, and I'm going to call that a weave that is made up of light, light filaments, light strings of light that act in such a way that we are kind of tied into their web. It's kind of an impersonal network that is imposed upon us. And so that is Kronos time, chronological time, on the one hand. On the other hand, we can also see that as the limits imposed by, for example, let's say our astrology, the planets, which are seen as the agents of destiny in astrology, kind of have also these strings, or these filaments of light, or these filaments of intention that trap us in their web. So, one of the big principles of astrology, of course, is that when you are born, your astrological sign creates a blueprint, a potential blueprint of your life and personality. So when we are unconscious, when we don't understand, let's say, that network within which we find ourselves, we are at the mercy of that web of life. We are at the mercy of those puppet strings. But of course, the principle of growth and evolution is that we are not puppets, that we might start off puppets given our ignorance, but that as we start to wake up, our intention, or the the illumination that takes place with our coming into awareness, with our birth into consciousness, which is our second birth. Our first birth is when we're born through the mother into this physical world. Our second birth is, or our rebirth obviously, is when we awaken to our true selves. And that obviously has to happen within our physical life, within our physical existence. But that is not a rebirth that takes place at a predictable time. It's there's not a kind of a script for that. It's not something that's necessarily set within a chronological time process. So it's not that when everyone reaches 30, they reach a certain level of consciousness and they are reborn. The principle of that awakening is twofold. The one is, let's say, a passive experience of awakening, which is where we might have an epiphany or a crisis that happens in our lives that forces us to awake, or that kind of jolts us out of our sleep. And then the other aspect is, and they're maybe a little bit connected anyway, the other aspect is where we start to cultivate the circumstances for our awakening, for our rebirth. And that process of cultivation, of course, is an ongoing process. And in order for it to be effective and real and deep, we need to not only run it through our heads, it mustn't only be a mental process. We actually need to have it be visceral. It needs to somehow have an effect on our body. It needs to have a profound psychological effect on our emotions, on our understanding of ourselves, so that it kind of breaks some of those puppet strings, those strings that are controlling us externally. So, the principle here with Kairos is that when we are in our lives, but we're kind of sleepwalking, that there are these filaments of light that are like the puppet strings that rule us, that control us, that take us in particular directions. But these are strings of light. So when our inner light, through our rebirth process, becomes stronger and more powerful than those strings of light of the puppet strings, we become independent. We are set free, because of course our own light is now overriding the light of those puppet strings. Those filaments of light representing consciousness, intentions, representing decisions. So we actually reach a point of self-illumination, where we are no longer dependent on the external sources of light. And of course, that's also where the model of astrology comes in. The principle of astrology is that our stars, or the ruling planets in our lives, through magnetism or through consciousness, whatever, kind of control us. So their movements rule us. But as we awaken to ourselves, as we understand, let's say, those movements of the planets, we can use the energies and the forces of those planets to our own benefit. We can use it with consciousness. So therefore we start to become the masters of our destiny, as opposed to being ruled by external fated forces. So this is a process, this working with the energy of Kairos is on the one hand about awakening, or dedicating ourselves to a path of awakening. And then on the other hand, it is the process of right time, right place situations coming in and showing us the way. You know, we could say the hand of the gods coming in and really, you know, moving and pushing our destiny. When we're in a more rational state of mind, or a more rational consciousness, or more ruled by the left side of the brain in our day-to-day, you know, thinking and workings, we might have certain plans and we might have certain strategies as to what we want to create, as to where we want to go. You know, we might actually have a plan of how we must go about doing certain things in order to, you know, make our dreams come true, or to fulfill our intentions. That's the rational side of things. And that's in itself, it's difficult. You know, it's difficult to, first of all, get the inspiration, then to take that inspiration and, you know, through discipline and strategy, start to live it in the world. You know, that's kind of a, you know, a head orientated process of changing our behaviors, of changing our environment in many ways. And that's effective, but that's also a more Kronos based, or a more, you know, external reality based principle, whereby, you know, we're following the step-by-step rules of Kronos's world, of the material world, of, you know, physical reality, material reality. The principle of Kairos, on the other hand, is where, by the grace of the divine, by the grace of our destiny, epiphanies come in, or opportunities in the outside world come in to speed up our process. You know, sometimes, you know, we might have a strategy and a plan in life, and we need to learn certain facts or take certain steps, but that's just not enough. And that's, of course, when we need those small miracles, or those epiphany moments, to take us beyond the predictable steps into, you know, into sort of basically a miraculous movement forward, so that our evolution can be sped up. And again, we can never control how Kairos is going to come in, how the principle of destiny is going to come in. It's kind of a tide. It's a bigger movement that occurs in our own personal lives. Sometimes it does relate to, you know, the times, the zeitgeist of where we are, you know, either geographically or in terms of society around us. But it is very specifically, more specifically, a personal spiritual growth process. And the only way that we can kind of, I guess, prepare or open ourselves to the principle of Kairos, moving us faster through our destiny, is to start cutting away some of those puppet strings that are controlling us in our lives. And where we can start, of course, is with our own traumas, is with our own limitations, working with the past, working with the fears, the anxieties, the pain that we might have built up, so that we can be a little bit freer, so that we can be a little bit more healthy, so that we can be a little bit more conscious in our lives. And I do believe that when we start to work on ourselves in this way, when we start to show our sincerity in this process of starting to, you know, clear out the baggage, the karma, the puppet strings, that's when, of course, this weave of life that surrounds us, that holds us in place, starts to loosen up. And then those veils of the ego soften, the veils that kind of keep the magic out, that, you know, the veils, or the again, the filaments that keep us stuck in the reality of Kronos, get looser, so that we can move more freely. so that we can start to have more control of our destiny. But usually, in order to get to that point, we need to kind of understand the lay of the land. We need to understand, let's say, what our destiny is. Not so much our destiny as on, this day, on this particular day, this particular fated thing is going to happen. It's more the destiny of understanding what is our potential, understanding who we really are, what we really love, what we really want to do with our lives, what our purpose is. So understanding our essence and our potential is understanding our destiny. Usually, again, the weave of Kronos gets in the way of understanding our potential, because the weave of Kronos puts us into a particular time frame and frame of circumstance, frame of conditioning. The classic one is, we were artistic as children, but our parents said we should become an accountant or a lawyer because it makes more practical sense, for example. So it's when we're in that frame that we literally can't see ourselves. So the first step is to start looking inwards, to look into the inner space. As we look into the inner space, and as we start to realize that clearing needs to be done in that inner space. And as we start the clearing, then we can create expansion in ourselves. And when we create expansion, we loosen those puppet strings. So of course, one of the best ways of doing this is through breath work, for example, through other trance experiences, whereby we engage the other side of the brain, the other side of our consciousness, which is in classical mythology the Dionysius side. It's where we enter the right brain, where we enter the poetic, mythological, artistic side, creative side of ourselves, where that Kronos doesn't have a strong hold. The Kronos approach and structure of life is kept in place by the left-hand side of the brain, the rational thinking. And of course, don't get me wrong, we need both. We do need structure as well. We do need analytical thinking as well at certain times. But the analytical thinking is going to be the step-by-step approach, whereas the mythological thinking is going to be where the epiphanies and the liberation comes in. Again, that right-hand side, that Dionysius side, relates to Kairos, and the more rational, planned out side relates to Kronos and the left-hand side of the brain. So we free ourselves from the rule of Kronos by starting to look inward, by starting to expand our consciousness, by starting to expand beyond our conditioning, beyond our past, beyond all the ways in which we've been limited in the past, so that we can access that expanded self. That expanded self is not only an expansion, let's say, outwards, whereby we go beyond the ego. It's also an expansion deeply inwards, where we go deep into our physical body, as well as our deep unconscious, as well as into our ancestry, the collective unconscious, where we maybe start to see and understand genetic karma or personal karma. And once we can start to see some of those structures, we can, through cultivation, through our process, we can start to take care of those and to clear those. And again, breath work is one of the most accessible ways of accessing that trance state that leads to expansion. Breath work is free. We can do it every day. We can do it by ourselves, or we can do it with other support systems. But through the dedication, it is something that we can actually, it's a tool that we can use to cultivate our own expansion and our own growth. So I'm going to just look at some of the tarot cards. Many of you that have worked with me know a little bit about the tarot. So I'm just going to look at some of the tarot cards to also help illustrate this process of growth out of Kronos into Kairos, out of the world of external rule, material rule, which is the devil card in the tarot. And the devil card represents not only our own addictions and our own inner resistances and limitations, but it also represents the ways in which external factors, other people, circumstances rule us. And again, that's a classical experience of the Kronos. The opposite of the devil is the magician card. So the magician is where we become the magician in our lives, where we make the magic. You know, it's not the devil or the tyrant who's ruling us and telling us what magic we must make for him or her. It's where we start to wake up and say, well, I'm the source of light, and I'm the one who's going to make the magic in my life. And that, of course, relates to manifestation. But one of the intermediary points of that is the Hermit card. And the Hermit card is that point in the tarot. It's about halfway through the major arcana journey of the tarot. The Hermit is the point at which the individual starts to contemplate the light, the inner light, the light within the darkness, this, which is here represented as a star, but as well as a lamp that the Hermit is contemplating. So we do need to go into isolation, contemplation, rest, in order to find that inner light. The light can't be an external light, because an external light is always going to be ruled by or controlled by someone else, or it's always going to be kind of tainted by the vision of someone else. Of course, within our own personal process, every experience is subjective. So we need to take the time and space, first of all, to contemplate our own light. And as we practice, we learn more and more how to become the magician, where this light that was once external becomes internalized. It becomes the third eye. It's no longer something sitting outside. Both of these lights are kind of outside. It becomes something that is fully integrated into us, so that with our third eye, we have the wisdom and the understanding, and with our third eye, we learn to see in new ways. And when we can see in new ways, we can start to expect and manifest in new ways. Again, when we're living the existence of the devil, the light is hidden. It's only the authority, the tyrant, the external that's telling us what to do. We're reacting to the orders of this external tyrant. So tied in with that is these two principles. If we say that Kronos, again, is the devil, it's the external ruler. The external ruler, or the false tyrant, it's that ruler that seems to have control of us, but in a very predictable Kronos type way. One of the antidotes to that is the Wheel of Fortune, which is which is the system. It's this wheel within which we live, the wheel of fate and destiny. And in this card, it's very beautifully laid out, because here we have the 7 planets of astrology, the 7 classical planets. Here we have the 12 signs of the zodiac, and then here we have the 4 elements, and all of those fit into the tree of life of the Kabbalah. So it kind of shows how all of these kind of mystical sciences of astrology and Kabbalah and alchemy also in themselves have an order, but it's a mystical order. It's not the same type of order as the devil. You know, the devil is quite dark. The devil is very much, you know, the tyrant here in this world, or the tyranny of the world that doesn't have a spiritual source that is ruling and controlling us. So this wheel of fortune is kind of that next level, that next spiritual level that comes in. But the setting free of Kairos is the judgment card. And you know, here we need to forget the English word judgment as in judging. It's more judgment in terms of the last judgment, but not in a judgmental way. It's more the sense of liberation from the physical. You know, here we can see these purple people are reborn. They're emerging from the grave. They have died and they are reborn because of this miraculous light and, you know, this miraculous sound vibration that is calling them to life. So it's a new beat, it's a new rhythm that's being played. It's not this very kind of predictable yet spiritual rhythm that is ruling the world. It is something else that comes in, and this is that light of rebirth. So the lesson here is that as we cultivate ourselves internally, we start to learn to be able to hear that other divine music, or that other divine calling that is beyond, you know, let's say the war drums of the tyrant. We start to be able to perceive differently. And when we can perceive differently and when we can hear, then we can start to follow that other inner voice. And that can then bring us the guidance and show us the way in order to make the kind of miracles of Kairos possible, that we can sort of do things in new ways and at the same time trust our ability to create magic. And when we can create magic, we can expect the miracles within the mystery. The miracles open the doors to the mystery of the divine beyond. And that becomes like a dance, that becomes like a new dance that we can follow. We're no longer the puppets that are being ruled by, you know, either, you know, the Kronos destiny or the tyranny of this world. We are set free to dance on our own terms. So even though in many ways Kairos is, you know, it will happen and come in at the right moment, if we open the space for those opportunities, if we're able to hear better, then we can move with that flow a whole lot better. So we'll do a little bit of breath work now. We'll do a little bit of visualization to help open ourselves to that energy of Kairos, to that energy of divine timing. So now we'll go into this. My suggestion is that you sit upright. We're going to close our eyes. And we're just going to start off with 20 breaths again, just to get us into the space. And then afterwards, I'll ask you to keep breathing, keep your breathing going to your own rhythm. So we'll start with a long, deep breath. 4 short. 5 more. So now keeping your eyes closed, just keep your breathing going, keep your breathing connected. So you might want to follow this rhythm. And just keep that rhythm going as I speak. And in this first phase of this visualization and breath work, you're just breathing into your inner space in order to clear space. So that breath that you take in, it's creating an expansion inside your body, but also inside your consciousness. So as it creates this expansion inside, almost like a balloon that's blowing up inside of you, metaphorically. On the inhale, the balloon blows up a little bit more, and then on the exhale, some of those old emotions that get in the way are released. They're extracted with your out breath. So breathing in prana energy to expand inwardly, and on your out breath just letting go of the stuff, emotions, fears and pains that get in the way. So this first phase is a little bit like a dialogue or an inner listening, where you're taking in prana energy, life force energy, feeling what that brings up, and then just breathing out the resistances, the distractions, the things holding you back. Breathing in pure life force energy, breathing out stuff that holds you back. Just keep going like this. And as you continue, perhaps you start to become aware of something important in your life that you wish to cultivate now. This might be more spiritual connection, might be more self-knowledge, might be a goal that you have to improve your health or increase your abundance, to learn. Just become aware of a goal, an intention, a desire that is dear to you. And as you keep breathing in this way, as you keep opening your awareness, I encourage you to feel somewhere inside of you where that desire, goal and intention sits. Maybe it's in your heart, especially if this is something that you know will bring you joy. Or maybe it's in your stomach, if it's something that you really need to ground. Maybe it's in your head, if it's new ideas and inspirations that you wish to cultivate. So take this goal, intention, desire, and see it as a light that's starting to grow somewhere in your body. Now that you've cleared some of the space with your breath, you can start to see where this light is. And now as you start to locate this light, take your breath, your in-breath into the light. And with every breath, this light starts to grow stronger. With With every inhale, the light increases. Of course, this light represents your goal, intention, and desire. And with every out-breath, that light starts to grow and expand. The out-breath is like a way of inflating, carrying that light further. Because obviously, when you're in a constricted space, the light cannot flow. As you open space, the light can spread. So on the inhale, you increase the light. On the exhale, you expand the light within your inner being. So this light that you're expanding is giving more space for your goals, intentions, and desires, higher desires. And what you're doing as you breathe in this way is you're creating an energetic connection with this outcome, this goal, this intention, this desire that is not yet fully realized, that you're still cultivating. So through this breath, you're creating a relationship and a space, a shared space with this in your life, in your body, in this world of Kronos. And as you breathe in this way, this light represents the energy of Kairos, which is the energy of miracles and magic, which is beyond the tyranny of time and space. So you're opening the way for the miracles of Kairos, right time, right place energy, to come in and help move you forward faster in achieving your goal, intention, or desire. So just keep the breathing going. Keep expanding that light through your breath. Because you're not only expanding this light through your mind's eye and intention, you're expanding this light physically, viscerally, through your breath. Breath is furthering this light, which is Kairos, developing this relationship with Kairos, liberating you from the hold of Kronos. So as you breathe in this way, make the light of Kairos more alive. Maybe you notice that the color changes, transforms, or intensifies. Brightness of the light increases. Perhaps you even see, feel, or sense the energy of Kairos here. In essence, what you're doing is invoking Kairos into your life. Kairos, which is this archetype, this God consciousness. You're calling to help further your goal, intention, and desire. And in aligning yourself with Kairos, invoking Kairos, you're calling for opportunity, you're calling for inspiration, calling not only for inner realization, but you're also calling for external support. And maybe you get insights as to how this could happen or what you could do to further this goal, intention, desire. Otherwise, you can just be open to the mystery. Let the mystery carry you and guide you. Let the workings of Kairos come in as it should, when it should. The main thing here is to trust. Trust that things will happen as they need to, as they should. Trust You're guided and taken care of. And as you keep breathing, you're just continuously cultivating that relationship. Keep going, keep breathing, keep expanding, deeper inwards and further outwards. Now you can stop your conscious breathing and just feel that light of Kairos within you. Just feel what it feels like. Perhaps you even sense a message or get a sense of how this energy continues to express itself. Just trust now, let go. Trust that in the days and weeks to come, in its own way, this Kairos assistance and guidance will come in, allowing you to grow and expand. Take a long deep breath now, return gently by stretching, opening eyes. Just have a deep sense of it is done, that you can allow things to happen. Thank you, everyone.